It's 9:15 on a Friday morning. Children are settling into their classrooms, excited for the last day before holiday. By 9:20, 116 of them will be gone. An entire wing of their school swallowed by a black tide of coal waste. This wasn't nature, it was negligence. Ignored warnings and a single decision to save money. This is Aberfan, 1966. Aberfan sits in the Taff Valley in South Wales, a village built on coal. By the 1960s, nearly every man worked the pits, either digging underground or sorting the black rock that kept Britain's lights burning. Coal dust clung to everything: clothes, windowsills, even children's games. Hopscotch grids turned gray within an hour, and above the village loomed 7 spoil tips. Mountains of mine waste that the National Coal Board called spoil. Tip number 7. The largest of them all, sat like a crown of black rubble above the school. Local councillors had asked politely, more than once, for the tip to be moved further away. The board replied it was too costly, the risk too small. After all, the tips had stood for decades. What could possibly go wrong? By the spring of 1966, tip 7 was still growing. To save money, drivers were told to dump waste in the nearest and cheapest place, directly on top of an underground spring. Water seeped in, softening the ground beneath, until it was little more than sludge. That autumn brought some of the heaviest rainfall in living memory. Cracks began to snake across the slope. Engineers filed memos. The memos were ignored. On the evening of October 20th, a foreman noted in his log, "Some slippage, nothing urgent." That offhand remark was the decision that doomed a village. Friday the 21st of October. At 8:50 a.m., Pantglas Junior School buzzed with chatter. Children traded marbles, sang songs, and waited for the bell. At 9:20, a low rumble rolled through the valley. Someone joked it was thunder, then the hill gave way. A 12-meter-high wall of black slurry tore down the mountainside, snapping trees and flattening houses, before slamming into the school. In less than 5 minutes, 1.4 million cubic feet of waste buried the lower classrooms, the ones where the youngest children sat. A teacher managed to lead 10 pupils upstairs. The door jammed shut behind them. Elsewhere, desks, chalkboards, and rows of tiny coats disappeared under the tide. Rescue efforts began instantly. Miners dropped their tools and clawed at the debris and broken furniture with bare hands. Fathers dug through the rubble and recognized their own pickaxes buried inside. Volunteers formed human chains, passing buckets filled with mud, broken furniture, and schoolbooks. At midday, a hush fell when searchers uncovered a chalkboard still marked with the date. One rescuer whispered, "We're digging through tomorrow's lesson." By dawn, the next day, 94 children and 5 teachers were dead. More would die in hospital. Only a handful could even be recognized. The Queen eventually visited the village, later admitting that not coming sooner was her greatest regret. The Coal Board's chairman, Lord Robbins, declared the disaster impossible to foresee, and then left for a weekend of grouse shooting. Cameras captured the villagers' fury. Donations poured in from around the world, enough to rebuild the school many times over. Yet it took a full week for the board to admit responsibility. At the inquiry, no one confessed to authorizing the tip's location. Memos had gone missing. An engineer admitted he'd never been trained in slope stability. The final report condemned the board's ignorance, ineptitude, and failure of communication. But no one was fired. No one was fined. Families were paid £500 for each child, the price of a car. Parents refused to stay silent. They formed a pressure group and demanded the tips be removed. The board said it would cost too much. A year later, the tips still leaked. Only when 1 million signatures reached the Prime Minister did the Treasury release funds. Bulldozers finally leveled the slopes. Fathers who had lost children drove the very machines that had raced the hill. Many never spoke of it again. Today, a memorial garden stands where the school once was. White arches mark the names and ages of the children. 7, 8, 9 years old. On quiet days, the only sound is the wind chimes, made by classmates who survived. New laws now require spoil heaps to be mapped, monitored, and inspected. The Coal Board was dissolved in 1987, but no apology has ever named those responsible. Survivors still visit schools each October, reminding students, one lazy decision can bury a generation. Speak up when something feels wrong. If you want more stories where everyday choices spiral into unthinkable tragedy, subscribe. It's free, and it helps keep these histories alive. Tell me, which preventable disaster should I cover next? Aberfan proves the cost of negligence isn't counted in money, but in empty chairs at the dinner table. One memo ignored, one warning dismissed, an entire classroom gone. Remember Aberfan. Remember that at LLB fine is the most dangerous phrase in the world. Do you remember the first time you heard about this event? I don't. I know that whenever something like this happens, there's always somebody who says, "I knew something like this was gonna happen." There's always a person who's warned of something like this happening, and yet here we are, because nobody listened. So let this be another reminder to everybody watching. When somebody tells you that something seems like it's a problem, maybe take 5 seconds, listen to what they've got to say. Figure out whether they're right or not. Because if you do that in this situation, maybe you can prevent a catastrophe from happening. And also, like and subscribe. It genuinely means a lot to me and helps the channel grow. Check out my other content if you want. But apart from that, thank you so much for watching. Leave a comment if you want, but otherwise, have a great day.